Fun class kick, okay? Most of you got the first one right. I think everybody got the first one right. That's 5, okay? 2 mistakes happening on the second one. Negative a squared is negative a times negative a, right? And negative a times negative a is what? This is like saying negative times negative, so it's positive because it'd be a positive 1. But there's still an a times an a, so it's a squared. A lot of you are losing the squared, so be really careful there. Negative a squared becomes a squared. You can't lose the squared on it, okay? And then some of you are just like, I think there's like maybe 1 or 2 careless mistakes with your signs, so just be careful there, okay? For 3, I don't know what's happening. A lot of you are doing a lot of extra work you don't need to do. All we're doing is plugging in and simplifying. Nowhere does it say set this equal to 0. Nowhere does it say solve. Nowhere does it say any of that stuff, okay? So we plug in place of the x's goes the x plus 1s. I expand and FOIL this or use the shortcut, which is square the first, square the last, double the product. And then I distribute the 2, and then I would add the x. There's a positive 1 and a negative 1, so it cancels out. Combine my like terms, and this is as far as you need to go, okay? Even if it's factorable, this is as far as you need to go. The only time you would factor is if the directions literally said factor, or if it was set equal to 0 and you had to solve. Other than that, when we're finding f of or evaluating a function, you'll leave it alone, okay? Expand, FOIL, simplify, leave it alone. Okay, keep working. A variable under the root or a variable in the denominator under the root. If none of those 3 things happen, then it's all real numbers. For 4, there's a variable in the denominator. Most of you got 4 right. A couple of you made a mistake, so just be careful. It can't equal 0. If it can't equal 0, and if you don't give me your answer in interval notation, you can't get full credit. You have to put the answer in interval notation, okay? So a not equals means I go from everything smaller than it, not include it, union, everything bigger than it, not include it. So negative infinity to negative 1/3, union negative 1/3 to positive infinity. For 5, there are 2 restrictions. The top it has to be greater than or equal to 0 because it's in the top, but under a root. And in the bottom, it has to be greater than 0. It's in the bottom under a root. So when I get those 2, I get x has to be greater than or equal to negative 1, and x has to be greater than 3. I'm looking to where they overlap. They overlapped at positive 3 and to the right. 3 had a bracket, a parentheses on it. So my interval notation also has a parentheses on it. 3 to positive infinity. Questions on those? Yeah.
Wait, so like we put 3 infinity, but
not 1, right? Because it from here to here will work for my numerator. But if I take a number, let's say I take 0, and I plug it in the bottom, I'm going to get the square root of a negative number. So that's a problem. So it has to be only where it overlaps. Okay. All right, the last one. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure we know f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So my step 1, f of x plus h, this is the big one. I'm going to take everywhere there's an x and plug it in. So 4x plus h squared minus 2x plus h minus 3. And then the x plus h squared, if you memorize it, becomes x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. If you don't memorize it, FOIL it out because some of you made mistakes on that step. Here's a lot of you made this mistake. Distribute the negative 2 to both. So it should be minus 2x minus 2h. A lot of you missed the 2h. Minus 3. Now I distribute the 4. 4x squared plus 8xh plus 4h squared minus 2x minus 2h minus 3. Some of you messed up again, distributing here. Make sure it goes to all 3 spots. Some of you left them off. Okay, now I'm going to subtract from it my f of x. My original f of x is 4x squared minus 2x minus 3. So I can either minus, put it in parentheses, distribute, combine like terms, or change each one of those so it's its opposite and align it vertically with the ones that should cancel out from. So this should be a minus 4x squared. This should be a plus 2x, and this should be a plus 3. Now they cancel, and what's left, 8xh plus 4h squared minus 2h. Every term has an h. If it doesn't, you know you made a mistake. Go back and check it, okay? And the last step is divide it by h. My h cancels into each term, and I get 8x minus 4h minus 2. Plus 4h, sorry, minus 2. A lot of you got it right, so great job, okay? But some of you, this mistake happened to like probably 5 of you. Don't forget to distribute the negative 2. Watch your signs, that kind of stuff, okay? A reminder, this is not on your quiz tomorrow. but it is on your test. So if you will, one, export your class kick. So you have it. You could either screenshot it or you could send it to Notability. But I would say definitely either screenshot those 3 questions or send to Notability, okay? And then you can either add these questions onto that or you could add these onto your quiz review. I don't care where you add them, but we're going to add a couple domain. So find the domain of the following. And we're going to write the answer in interval notation. Let me put it in function notation. F of x equals 6x over x squared minus 64. B, f of x equals 3x to the third plus 7x. C, f of x equals the square root of x plus 3 over the square root of x plus 5. And D, Monica Rango, trying to hijack my board. D, f of x equals the square root of x plus 4 over x minus 6. All right, I'm going to go over. Yeah, well, you want to check your answers first and then you can go. Okay. So the first one, you've got a variable in the denominator. This can't equal 0, so x can't equal plus or minus 8. So I go negative infinity to the smaller one, which is negative 8, union negative 8, oops, a daisy, negative 8 to positive 8, union 8 to positive infinity. So if there's 2 not equal 2's, which is what's happening here, then we have to stop and start our interval notation at each one. So we go negative infinity to the smaller one, union, smaller one to bigger one, union, bigger one to positive infinity, okay? For B, there is no restriction because there's no variable in the denominator, there's no variable under square root, and or the combination of those two. For C, the numerator has to be greater than or equal to 0, the denominator greater than 0. I'm going to put it on the number line. So for 3 has to be greater than or equal to negative 3. So negative 3 bracket pointed to the right. For the bottom, x has to be greater than negative 5. So now I go from negative 5. I should do a different color. Negative 5 parentheses to the right. And I only want where they overlap. They start overlapping at negative 3, which has a bracket. So my overlap is negative 3 to positive infinity. And then D is where it gets a little tricky, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to add it. In my numerator, this is greater than or equal to 0, but in my denominator, this is not equal to 0. So from the numerator, I get x has to be greater than or equal to negative 4. From my denominator, I get x cannot equal 6. So think about what this looks on, again, on a number line. Negative 4 would be a bracket to positive infinity, but at 6, it stops. So there's a hole there. The way I express that in interval notation is from negative 4 to positive 6. Stops mean puts a parentheses. Union 6 to positive infinity. So if there's a combination of a not equals with the interval, you got to figure out what it would look like on that number line and then match it with your interval notation. Questions? Yeah.
What is it since the positive?
Because if this wasn't here, it'd be negative 4 to positive infinity, right? All this is saying it just can't equal 6. So it could be all these numbers. It can't be 6, but it could also be all these numbers. So we stop it at 6, but we continue it on like our arrow would continue on. Does that make sense? Okay, good. All right, so let's just talk about, like, if you open up your quiz review, let's talk about logistics of your quiz, all that good stuff. It is 10 questions, okay? If they are all short answer, which yay means partial credit, okay? I mean, except for, like, obviously the inequality, the x and y and origin symmetry, that's going to be a yes or no. So technically you get 2 choices there, okay? But, and there's no calculators the whole time. So next to each of these, I'm just going to like write on the side a little bit of what we would need to know to help us answer those questions. So 1 and 2 are both our triangle questions. This came from C1. And in that section, we needed to know the distance formula in order to find out the lengths of the sides, which is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Then it's going to ask you, so it's going to say, find the lengths of all 3 sides. You're going to have to find the lengths of all 3 sides. They're not going to be horizontal or vertical, so you're going to do the distance formula. You're going to make sure you simplify Your square roots. So if my answer was square root 20, you have to rewrite that as 2 root 5. If you leave it as square root 20, you'll lose some points. Then it'll say classify and make sure your work reflects it. If all 3 sides are the same, it's equilateral. That's an easy way to explain. You would just literally point that all 3 sides are the same, okay? If 2 sides are the same, it's isosceles, then we're just saying 2 sides are the same, okay? If it's a right triangle, then you have to show that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. C squared is going to be the longest side. The other 2 don't matter. But you'd have to show that work. So your work has to back your answer there. If it's none of those, it's none of those, which could happen. It could be none of the 3. So that would be for 1 and 2. Any questions on how to do those? Okay, good. All right, then came symmetry, and this was actually in C2, okay? To find the symmetry and the zeros, because it says intercepts, okay? The x-intercept, we make y 0, and we make sure we put it in coordinate point form, because that will also cost you points. For the y-intercept, we make the x 0, and we also put it in coordinate point form. To test for x-axis symmetry, we change the y to be a negative y. To check for y-axis symmetry, we change the x to negative x. And to test for origin symmetry, we do both. X goes to negative x and y goes to negative y. And in all 3 cases, we're looking for what 2 things to happen in order for us to say, yes, this is it. What would lead to it saying, yes, that it's symmetric? Everything goes back to the original. So we're going to simplify, right? Simplify. And check, okay? If equals the original, then I would say it has that kind of symmetry. What's the other option? Every single sign changes, good. Or every sign changes. And it's literally going to say x-axis symmetry, yes, no. Y-axis symmetry, yes, no. Origin symmetry, yes, no. Each individual one will be worth points. So if you get one wrong out of the 3, you don't lose all of it. But then you're going to use all that information to graph. If you need extra stuff because you don't know what it looks like, you can plot some extra points. If you don't, and you got enough from this, you're good to go, okay? And they don't have to be perfect graphs yet, but they do have to reflect what you said. If you said something had y-axis symmetry and your graph does not, then you know something's wrong. So like if it's a parabola, like if it's 4, no. If it's a parabola, 3 is going to be facing, that's a parabola turned on its side. But if it's like number 5, that's a parabola that opens up and I say there's no y-axis symmetry and then my graph reflects that there is, then I know something's wrong. Okay, then came your circles. So find the center and the radius of the circle, sketch the graph. This time we're just pulling the information out of it. So the standard equation for a circle, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. This was also in C1. We changed the signs on the hk and, oh, this is r squared, sorry. And r is the radius, so we would square root. I actually think, hang on. Obviously, the square root of 14 is not a perfect square, so when you go to square root that, to graph it, you're going to approximate it. Square root 14 would be in between square root 9 and square root 16, so it's going to be somewhere in between 3 and 4. But we would approximate that answer. So let's say, for example, I had a center that was 2, -1, and I had a radius was the square root of 14. Well, this is 14. Let me give you a different one. Square root of 21. If I wanted to graph that, I would go to 2, 1, over to the right, 2, down 1, and plot my center. And then I would have to find the approximation of the square root of 21, because that's obviously not a perfect square, right? What is 21, or the square root of 21, in between what 2 perfect squares? What's the one smallest to the left of it? 16. Square root 16, and after it 25, good. For this purpose, I don't, just split the difference. Like that would be 4 and this would be 5, so we're gonna approximate it to be 4.5. It might be closer to 25 than it is to 16. It doesn't matter. We're graphing an approximation for this. So I would go from the point I plotted, from my center, I would count to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4.5. I would count up 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Left 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And down 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And then, hopefully you would do a better job than me, you would do your circle as best you can. Okay? And Notability makes you your nice, beautiful circle on your quiz. Notability won't be there to make it pretty. It's fine, as long as you cross through those approximate points.
On the quiz for questions like 3, 4, 5, and 6, are we gonna have to draw the graph or will there be a graph?
There'll be a graph there. Yeah. I try to make it as like easy for you and for me to grade. So I'll usually, if you're graphing, I'll give you the graph on it. And if it, like, because this happens, I can't remember your numbers, but like on the quiz that we did for AP, if I'm plotting a point that's like here and I need to go to the right 4 spaces, just count out. It's fine. Okay? Count up, count down, whatever it is. If it goes off the graph, it goes off the graph. Don't give me part of a circle. Give me the whole circle. But you can always extend your graph out, or you could go by 2s. If you're going to go by 2s, you got to mark them so that I know you went by 2s, something like that, okay? Either of those is fine. Just because it's not on the graph doesn't mean it's wrong, okay? All right, then came 8 and 9, both still involving circles. 8 gives you the center and the point, so that's my HK, that's my XY. Plug it in, find your R squared. 9 gives you the endpoints. How do I find the center? If I have the endpoints of the diameter. Midpoint, good. The midpoint of the diameter is your center. X1 plus X2 over 2. Y1 plus Y2 over 2. And then I would use that with one of the points to find the equation. That's still in C1. Then came our slopes and slope-intercept form and equations of lines, all that stuff. So we would need to know, this is 1, 1, okay? We need to know slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then to find the equation, you can either use y equals mx plus b, or you can use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And our default answer is going to be in what? What format? Slope-intercept. So unless it says put it in standard form, we put it in y equals mx plus b. Number 11 references parallel and perpendicular lines. What's true about the slope if a line is parallel? It's the same of parallel. The slope of parallel lines are the same. And the slope of perpendicular lines, what's true about those? Opposite reciprocal. So these questions, it says take your equation, find the equation that is A parallel and B to the line that's given. Questions on those? Okay, and then we pick up where we left off on the warm-up, which was domain. Remember, you're looking for a variable in the bottom, and we would set that not equal to 0. We're looking for a variable under a root, and we would set that greater than or equal to 0, or we're looking for a variable in the bottom under the root, and we would set that greater than 0. And all those answers are going to be in interval notation. And then the evaluates at the end, so this is now 1.2. The evaluates at the end, we're just going to take those values and plug them in. We'll save the difference quotient for test. 10. Yeah. Obviously, some of them have multiple parts, but 10 in total. Any other questions? Yeah.
So no difference quotient for the...
Not on the quiz. It's on your test, but not in the quiz. Okay. All right, you